President Obama is going on the offensive to convince Congress and the public that a military strike on Syria is the right move. He's not the first president to step in front of a camera to argue the case for war. I'm Shannon Ray Green, and this is USA Now for September 9th, 2013. Today, Obama is spending most of his time on air, speaking with at least 6 networks, seeking support for a military strike at Bashar Assad's government over the alleged use of chemical weapons. Obama is facing intense opposition within both parties over Syria. He'll address the nation tomorrow night. Presidential addresses are one tool to use as a rallying cry for war. Everyone remembers President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's address to Congress after the attack on Pearl Harbor, calling it a day that will live in infamy. Take a look at this.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
Isn't it hard to watch that and feel uninspired? President George W. Bush took a more intimate approach with a live address to the nation from the Oval Office. The camera zooms in as he delivers the dramatic news that the country is going to war in Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. On my orders, coalition forces have begun striking selected targets of military importance to undermine Saddam Hussein's ability to wage war.
That's pretty intense. His father, President George H.W. Bush, said in his presidential address to Congress that sending the military to the Persian Gulf was about defending our country.
So tonight, I want to talk to you about what's at stake, what we must do together to defend civilized values around the world and maintain our economic strength at home. Our objectives in the Persian Gulf are clear, our goals defined and familiar. Iraq must withdraw from Kuwait completely, immediately, and without condition.
Right now, we're joined by USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page. Susan, is a big address like this typical?
You know, I think before we've seen any major military action undertaken by a president, he goes to the American people, explains his reasons, often with an address from the White House, as we're going to hear from the president.
So, most of the public will hear the president present his case. But will they really agree with him? How effective can these addresses be, do you think?
Addresses from the Oval Office have a great stature. They get a big audience. Americans listen to them, but they are not necessarily persuaded by them. And in this case in particular, the president is facing an American public that is very reluctant to back him on military strikes on Syria.
And we all know there is a lot of skepticism when it comes to Syria. Most congressmen are still saying they're undecided. Polling is indicating heavy public opposition. How big of a challenge is Obama facing? Do you think he can even overcome this?
What a big challenge this is for President Obama. We have a new USA Today Pew Research Center pullout that shows by 2-to-1 Americans say they oppose military strikes on Syria. And what's more, they say by a similar proportion that Congress should have the final word, not the president. So if the president wants to go ahead with military strikes on Syria, he's going to be forced to persuade Congress to support him.
Susan, thanks so much for sharing your expertise. Susan will continue to provide updates on the president's lobbying for a military strike on our site. Look for her coverage at politics.usatoday.com. What would you like to hear from the president tomorrow night? Tell me on Twitter using hashtag #USANow. I'll be retweeting from @ShannonRayGreen and @USA Today Video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to hear what you think about the president's case for military action on Twitter.